Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Thrive Live. This is our weekly broadcast that we are bringing to you from Thrive Mortgage. And we like to do this every week and bring you some important news-breaking updates and all that good stuff just to keep you informed about what's going on in the world of real estate and specifically mortgages, but we'll have occasional realtor conversations here and there. But one of the biggest things that we want to talk about is that recently as in like this morning, the FHFA. Yeah, we got too many acronyms in this industry.
Too much
the
time.
FHFA, they are the agency that oversees Fannie and Freddie. They every year they reevaluate what conforming loan limits are going to be for the upcoming year. Well, they made an announcement that the conforming loan limits coming up for next year, 2023, are jumping up to $726,200. I believe is what they announced.
That's
so
a big number.
We're getting up there. They've adjusted it every single year. Since 2016, 2018, I think it's gone up every single year. I mean, by the way, I'm James Duncan, Director of Marketing for Thrive Mortgage. Sitting next to me is Steve Ferguson, one of our esteemed branch managers here in the Central Texas area. So, Steve, thanks for coming and joining us on Thrive Live today.
Hey, man, appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Tell me more about those numbers. What's going on? So,
okay.
What does this mean?
For those of you who don't know what a conforming loan limit is or why it matters to you, basically, the FHFA establishes this threshold every single year. What this means is that the most that you can borrow on your mortgage loan and still have it be a conforming loan, meaning that it gets sold to either Fannie or Freddie or it meets Fannie and Freddie's guidelines, is the maximum loan amount that you can have is $726,200. Why the $200? Because even numbers are, well, I guess it is an even number, but they got to throw in a little extra here and there. It's based on some formula that they don't tell us about, and so we never know what it's going to be. I mean, we got some idea of what it's going to be each year. Sometimes they surprise us and go way over that number, like last year.
Huge.
Other times they're a little bit under, so it just depends on kind of doing that. And no, they base it off of mathematical formula. So anyway, so that's the announcement. That's one of the big announcements that came out today. The reason why that matters to you is because if you go $1 over that amount, what category of loan are you now in?
You're now in a jumbo loan.
And does that change things at all?
Huge.
Oh, yeah.
More down payment, higher interest rates. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yep.
So the reason why this is significant is because now you've got a little bit more cushion. Those of you who are looking at home prices that are in that $750 to $800 range, now you have a little bit more flexibility in being able to get your loan amount down below that conforming loan limit, and therefore giving you much more advantageous terms on the mortgage that you get. But that's just one of the things that we wanted to bring up. We brought Steve in to talk more about a specific topic that is coming up a lot lately and has been for the last couple of years, and that is the question of should you rent or should you buy? So, Steve, I'm going to kick it over to you and let you answer that question. Should people who are not currently homeowners, should they continue to rent or should they look at purchasing a home?
Oh, you should buy. Okay, we're done. Oh, let's talk about it. Let's explain. This is really important, right? Yeah. So, first of all, this is a marker for you, James, because we're going to do some math.
Awesome. I love math.
I'm really excited about this, guys. We're loan officers, so math is not our strong suit. I'm so sorry. So let's talk about renting. Now, right now, you're spending a certain amount of money per month on rent, right? So, James, what do you think an average number is that you're renting right now? Let's just say if you're renting a house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, how much is that a month?
3-bedroom, 2-bath, how many square feet?
Let's just say 1,500 square feet.
In Austin, you're probably going to be paying anywhere from $1,800 to $2,000 for that apartment, just depending on or that house, depending on where it is.
I agree, 100%. So let's use round numbers.
I like round numbers.
I know you're doing the math. So $2,000 a month.
All right.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
So $2,000 a month.
Smaller board.
This is a large board. You're gonna see what we're writing here, which is awesome. So rent's $2,000 a month, and right now it's upside down to you guys. We'll turn it around in a second, but do this math with us. $2,000 a month. You're gonna rent for 12 months.
Okay.
So how much you're gonna spend for rent in 12 months? So it's 2,000
times 12.
Times 12.
Okay. That's 24,000.
That's exactly
Yay!
right. Man, guys, if I had that little happy button right now, I'd be clicking it. It's a good job, James. Now let's get into some really strong math right now. Let's figure this out. Now, is that all it costs to rent?
No.
Okay. He's a smart guy, right? Smart guy over here. We got this figured out. So if you would have bought a house this year, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, how much do you think it would cost?
Again, depending on the location, you can probably safely assume it's going to be somewhere between 350 and 400.
Okay, which number would you like to use?
Let's use the 400.
Okay, 400,000. Let's write that down. Bought a $400,000 house. Okay. Now, I'm going to try and keep this math as simple as we possibly can because I want you to think about a couple of very important things that most people don't think about. When you're spending money on rent, where does that money go?
To the landlord.
That's right. Doesn't do anything for you. You have no tax benefits. You're buying shelter. Agreed?
I'm glad you said shelter.
Shelter. I mean, that's what it is, right? It's a roof over your head. Shelter.
That could have gone a different way.
It really could have. You're right. Absolutely. Now, if we're buying our own house, it's not a shelter anymore, right? We're building real estate. We're building wealth. And how we build wealth is a little different. So 400,000, do you know what the average appreciation is in the Austin market over the last 10 years?
I'd say it's, in the last 10 years.
10 years. What's the average?
Probably somewhere between 6 and 8%.
It's 10.4% year over year.
Nice.
Okay, over 10 years. Now we're going to use easy numbers. We're going to do 10%
Okay.
year over year. So let's just assume for a minute that you rented for 5 years or you made a decision to buy. What would your investment look like after 5 years? So if we did 5 years of rent, it's 24,000 times 5. You're doing a really. I'm glad you're right-handed. This makes it easier. After 5 years,
24,000
times 5.
That's what, 90,000. I didn't. No, I didn't.
I don't think that's right. I mean, I'm a little concerned about this now.
I am.
Do you need me to handle it?
I need you to help.
No, come on now. 24,000. I know we've got this, James. 24,000 times 5.
That's going to be.
You need to. I got to calculate.
That's going to be 120.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Why
You're
was
doing
that
a
so
really
hard?
good job, man. Guys, we're learning all kinds of good stuff today. I really appreciate you
I was an
tuning in.
English teacher, not a math teacher.
Hey, look, I'm not here to judge at all. You do you, man. $120,000 is what it costs you for shelter over 5 years, right? Period.
Okay.
$400,000 purchase price on a home.
Mm-hmm.
If you bought that home this year and you kept it for 5 years, now the goal is to figure out what it's going to be worth after 5 years.
Okay.
So
year by year.
Okay, that's easier. So the first year, if we're doing 10%, you bought it for 400. So after 12 months, it's worth
10% appreciation. That's going to be 440.
440.
Hey.
Congratulations, you made 40 grand for living in a house.
Nice.
How about year two?
It's going to be 10. What's 10% of 440,000? That's
So it's
gonna
another
be
44,000.
44.
So 484.
So 484.
Yep. Now we're at year three. It's
Okay.
getting harder because we're getting decimal places and everything. Oh man.
So it's going to be another
48,400. So
Okay.
what? 520. Help us online here, guys. You should know this. 520. We'll say 525 for round numbers. It's relatively close to that.
Wouldn't it be 528?
I think you're right.
Okay. I'm just going to.
See, we're loan officers here. We don't do this math. And honestly, we're kind of messing around with you guys
Kind of assuming.
because we want you to get an idea of where we're going here. This doesn't have to be exactly accurate, but we want you to know what this means. So if we keep going, that's 3 years, $528,000. So in 3 years, you made $128,000 on appreciation. And we haven't gotten to year 5 yet. Let's keep going. So 52.8 on top of that.
So another 53 added to that. That's going to be 581.
81. Mm-hmm. And one more after that. 58,000 on top of that. 600,000 and change. 630.
Let's see.
637.
Carry the 1. 637.
Mm-hmm. So think about this for just a second. You bought a home. You kept it for 5 years based on current appreciation rates. Your $400,000 home is now worth $637,000. We're going to turn this big old board around. Now look at that. You spent $120,000 to rent for 5 years. If you bought a home, you made an extra $237,000. The real cost of renting is when you add these two together. You're $237,000 because you lost the appreciation. Plus you spent the money on rent for $120,000.
Per year.
$120,000 is over 5 years.
Right.
So over a 5-year period of time, you lost what? 437 plus 120, that's what? That's a ton of what? $357,000 over 5 years.
And that's provided that your landlord doesn't raise the rent.
Exactly. Right. We're not even talking about tax benefits here. We're just talking about the true net cost of renting versus buying. That's a big number. Now, what could that have done for your family? Think about that for a second, James, right? If I'm going to buy a home, I want to make sure that my family is set up to succeed. And we always see arguments all the time where people are like, well, what about taxes? And what about utilities and maintenance and all those things? When you're renting, those things are built in, right? Your landlord is not covering those on your behalf. He's building that into your rental amount, so that way he's covered. So in this case, when you own a home, you get the benefit of all that appreciation, all the tax benefits. You can paint your walls any color you want. You can have a dog. You can have the kids. You can have the yard. You can have all those things that you couldn't have when you rented. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense, James?
It makes 100% sense to me.
I mean, it took us forever to do the math.
Well, that's why we have computers and calculators.
That's true. If we had a calculator, it would have been done in about 10 seconds. This is more entertaining for sure.
Sure.
So the fact of the matter here is...
For them, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. You can look at this any way you'd like. But if you look at the true, real numbers, and you guys can Google this, search it, whatever you want to do, we're not using numbers that are fake. These are real things. You would have lost a ton of money by deciding to rent. Now, a lot of people come back and say, well, I have to rent. I can't afford to buy, or I don't have the down payment, et cetera. There's all kinds of programs that exist, James, right? And so, there's down payment assistance.
Right.
There's grants. There's, closing costs that can be paid by the seller. Interest rates are still great. You can do rate buy downs. There's so many different options.
Right.
People don't ever consider those. You talk about this all the time.
Of course.
Yeah. And so, what do you think, James? Do we think we made a solid case here on the reason to buy versus rent?
I think so. I mean, you already talked about the tax implications that come up with being able to write off your property taxes every single year. And God forbid the IRS should ever change that.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, there's all kinds of tangible benefits, and let alone the fact, those folks out there who if you purchased your home and at any time in 2019, 2020, those folks are sitting on 30% appreciation, because over the last 2 years, I did already run the math on this, and you have too. Yep. Over the last 24 months, coast to coast. Now, obviously it's going to fluctuate based on the individual markets, but coast to coast, just looking at home prices across America, home prices appreciated over the last 24 months, I think it was 42.1%. That is verifiable stats. We can put the statistics in the comments when we're done here.
Absolutely.
And so you can go look it up for yourself. We're not just making that up.
No.
So the gains that exist for you in owning your home rather than renting your home are substantial. And I remember seeing a stat not too long ago that I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 80 times that homeowners have a net worth 80 times greater than renters, lifelong renters.
Well, think about this math. It makes perfect sense. You're talking about $80,000 a year, essentially, is what your net income is,
right, just
by buying a home versus renting, the true cost of that.
Right.
Could you have a second job that paid you that kind of money for just living somewhere? I don't think you could, right? And so you're sitting at home and earning money every single day just by owning that piece of property.
With every single mortgage payment, you're paying yourself back.
Absolutely. It's a benefit.
One of the objections that I've heard in the past that folks say is, well, this isn't tenable for me because the job or the career that I have, I move a lot. And I'm military is one such example. What is your response to, obviously everybody's financial situation is different. Everybody's home life is different. Their priorities are different.
Sure.
So somebody comes to you with that objection. What is your response to them in that sense?
Well, regardless, I would turn those properties into rental property if it were me, right? Everywhere that we go, I'm gonna buy that property. I'm gonna move to the next one. I'm gonna rent out that property, and I'm gonna let my renters build my rental portfolio, pay my mortgage payment, and help my family build wealth. That's residual income year over year. Right? As long as they're paying that rent, you've got that property, you're earning the equity position. It's a huge win-win for everybody. So absolutely, every time I moved, I would turn that into a rental property.
That's a very, very wise thing to do. And there are a lot of people who have made substantial, I'm not going to say income, but have generated substantial wealth by doing exactly that.
Absolutely.
And you don't even have to move to a different city in order to do it. You can do it in your own hometown. And if you want to be like fix and flippers were a really big thing. There was a stretch of time where you could hardly flip on YouTube without seeing an ad for somebody with the latest and greatest fix and flip strategy. You got to read the fine print to know exactly what you're getting into, but that is a legitimate practice 100%. that folks have engaged in order to generate real wealth. So that's pretty cool.
It's very cool. The tax benefits of owning investment property are ridiculous, and so that's something we can definitely talk about. Fantastic.
Oh, okay.
They are awesome. And so I won't get into that because I'm not a licensed CPA, but I can tell you that you definitely want to do some research on what your tax benefits are by owning investment properties. It's substantial.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Well, got a couple of questions popped in. With the first one from Pamela: will my monthly payment increase with a mortgage?
Increase? Well, I guess it depends on what you're paying now. If we're talking about in regards to, is it more expensive to have a mortgage than rent? It depends. Depends on what you're renting. Are you buying something similar to what you're renting, or are you getting a bigger house, et cetera? So it's hard to answer that question without knowing specific details, but I can tell you in a lot of markets right now, a mortgage payment is what it costs to rent. And so I wouldn't think it would be a substantial difference, but I can tell you, even if you spent more money per month renting, the benefits that you would receive by owning the home would far outweigh the difference in your actual monthly payment.
And you said the word expensive, and that's kind of an arbitrary term, because what's expensive, that really depends on your monthly cash flow,
right?
Like how much is coming in versus going out. 100%. And so there's a big huge conversation that could be unpacked here, and if we had the time, and maybe we'll have you back on and we will unpack it.
Sure.
But the bottom line is there's a lot of folks that are out there with questions on their mind, but they don't know exactly what's the best first question to ask. Honestly, the best thing for you to do is just pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody like Steve, and find a trusted mortgage advisor in your area that you know is going to shoot you straight on giving you these answers. They're not going to don't call a call center. No offense to call centers, but they are not equipped to have these kinds of conversations. So reach out to a local mortgage loan advisor, preferably one with Thrive, and strike up that conversation with them. This is what we do all day, every day, is have these kinds of conversations, running through these kinds of scenarios, and just picking your brain with what your biggest priorities are, and finding out about your unique financial situation right now. And right now might not necessarily be the right time for you personally to buy, but you're not going to know that until you have that conversation.
Absolutely. And I want to bring up one more thing about that question. I think is really important for you to hear. I said earlier it's $80,000 a year. It's actually about $70,000 a year. But even if my mortgage payment was $500 more a month, that's $6,000. I would put money in that machine every single day to make $70,000 a year. So you really have to look at it from a different perspective of what your money really looks like when you're buying versus renting. So
we got a couple of other good questions I definitely want to touch on here live. If you got more questions, definitely pop them into the comments below, and we'll definitely get you answers. If you want to connect with somebody here at Thrive, we can definitely help you out with that too. But next question: what if my credit score isn't good enough to qualify for a loan?
We have so many programs out there. My goodness, I love this question too, because I'm really passionate about this. And so we have so many programs out there right now for less than perfect credit. We have a specific program we call Thrive for Home, which is designed to help you incubate your credit, get you where you need to go so that you can buy a home. It's a really high likelihood that we could even qualify you right now, just depending on where your credit is. A lot of people think they have terrible credit, and they really don't.
Right.
There's programs designed for everybody out there. And again, with our expertise and our systems that we have in place, we can definitely guide you where you need to go and get you taken care of from start to finish.
Great
so
answer.
Please reach out. I definitely, if it's not me, somebody with the Thrive logo, right? Let's talk, because we've got some great stuff for you.
We do, I knew that was the almost word for word. That was going to be the answer that you were going to give. But you're absolutely right. You've heard it said in other advertisements and campaigns and stuff, don't prejudge your credit. Go ahead and start that conversation. It's never too early to at least have the conversation. And if you're in a spot where maybe your credit, you've got some dings on it, and your credit is lower than where you would like for it to be, yeah, maybe we can probably find you a program to get you in. If you absolutely positively have to get into a house, we've got a program that we can work with you on. But we also have, as Steve was saying, we also have an initiative where we can help you improve that situation. And it's not us doing any kind of credit repair or anything, but we're helping kind of coach you and guide you through the different things that you can do in order to improve your situation and get to a point where you can be credit approved and be ready to go buy a house. So definitely start those conversations with us as soon as you can.
Absolutely.
The other good question that I want to hear you address is, if I can't afford to buy a home by myself, should I consider buying a home with a friend or continue renting?
Oh, again, let's buy a home. So there's so many different opportunities. If you're buying with a friend, a family member, you have a co-signer. And honestly, that's a big deal right now. A lot of people are going in together to buy homes because you still have the ability to own it. If you guys all go together as friends and 4 years from now you decide to sell it, guess what? All of you guys probably made money, which is a big deal, versus if you're renting and paying for shelter, like I talked about before, you made nothing. It just cost you a whole lot of money out of pocket. So yes, do whatever you can, in my personal opinion, to purchase that home, get into that financial situation, which is going to set you up for financial freedom in the near future. So 100% yes.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing that I'll kind of trail onto that response is, number one, if you are going to go into it with some friends and get together on the same loan, make sure that they're good friends.
Yes.
And they're not flakes, and they're not going to leave you holding the bag and stuff, because there's a lot of things to consider. If getting a friend to be on the loan with you is not an option, but you're really, really close, well, there are some loan programs that will allow you to include border income. And what that means is, like, you yourself can be the homeowner. You would purchase the house and then rent out a room to one or two of your friends and have them help contribute towards paying your mortgage. So in that situation, like where we were talking about the rental for $2,000 a month, let's say that's your mortgage payment. Well, rent out a bedroom for you. You of course are going to take the master. So
absolutely,
because I mean, big bathroom and a whole bit.
Absolutely.
But let's say you buy a house that has two other bedrooms, or you got a 3 or a 4 bedroom. Well, that's two other bedrooms that you can rent out. Mm-hmm. You've got a nice home. I mean, comparable rent of like a 1-bedroom studio in the Austin area is going to be going for at least $1,000 a month.
I would think
You could rent those rooms to your roommates for $800 a piece. You've got 3/4 of your mortgage payment taken care of right there, and you're making money off of it.
Cha-ching!
All kinds of options. So
I like it.
Again, the bottom line is start a conversation to build that plan now and get that going before you run out of options. So, Steve, any last words on this whole rent versus buy?
I just hope you guys got the point today, right? There's a lot of options. There's a lot of opportunity, and everybody's specific situation is different. But what I want you to understand is that it makes financial sense to purchase versus rent. And so I just really hope we drove that home today. That's my biggest goal, is to make sure that you're not a renter forever, that you buy a home as soon as you possibly can.
You know, I kind of lied. That wasn't our last question. We actually had another one come in that
we
actually is really, really good.
Okay, let's answer it. Let's do it.
And so Rosie's saying, is there an optimal time that I should plan to stay at a home if I'm planning to buy? And I got a real quick and dirty answer for that.
Go ahead.
That answer largely depends on you and your priorities, Rosie. So, I mean, if you are, and that is also going to come into play with determining whether or not you put a lot down or only put a little bit down. So it just depends on what you want to get out of that home buying experience, what that asset is going to do for you. So what would you say to that?
I call that strategic buying.
Strategic buying.
And so you can still do very well on a home, even if you own it for a short amount of time, if you buy it the right way in the right location. Mm-hmm. So that's something we can definitely talk about for your personal situation, but absolutely, there's still a lot of ways to come out way ahead versus renting. So certainly.
We've said this before. There are literally dozens and dozens of variables that go into determining whether or not you have the right mortgage strategy in place. And a true mortgage advisor is the only one qualified and capable of being able to help you determine that. So make sure that you're tuning into this show every week. Go ahead and hit that little subscribe button that you see down below. And then go ahead and click the little bell. I mean, it's a cute little bell. It's holiday time, silver bells. I mean, you just click the bell so that you get notified every time we go live. And we'll be back again next week with another great episode of Thrive Live and more educating and getting you up to speed on what's what. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Bye, guys.